How are you guys doing? Today is Monday, April 11th, 2022. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, I am going to review the 2021-22 NBA season in this particular episode by going through the statistical leaders this season. At least we're going to go individually, just to take a look at the individual players who were able to stand out in this league, where you have about 300, 400-ish players, really kind of competing to really be the best basketball player that they can, and at the same time that are competing for roster spots and are competing to not get cut from the NBA. You have hundreds of thousands, if not millions and billions of people that are competing for this very exclusive league. So of course it's very impressive when you see players that are able to rise to the top, especially when you have all these players that are playing the exact same game. With that said, I'm really going to jump in and look at the statistical leaders from this 2021-22 season, as it really has been sort of crazy. Starting from the beginning, looking at the players who were able to lead in minutes, there were 5 players in the NBA that averaged at least 30 quarters of gameplay, averaging at least 36 minutes. Tied in fourth, you see the all-star duo of Jason Tatum from the Boston Celtics and DeMar DeRozan, as both of those players average 36.1 points while leading both of their teams to playoff seeds, while they're going to be playing against each other in the first round of the playoffs. Sitting ahead of them in third place is James Harden, who averaged 37.2 minutes per game. Sitting right ahead of him, you have a two-way tie between Toronto's Fred VanVleet and Pascal Siakam. They both average nearly 38 minutes a game, while getting Toronto to the 5th seed in the Eastern Conference. So that is how that statistical category is ending up. Looking at the points leaders, the NBA qualified points leader this year, the scoring champ, is Joel Embiid. He's the first center since Shaquille O'Neal to lead the NBA in scoring. He would go on to average 30.6 points per game, of course, while averaging 11.5 rebounds, over a steal and a block, while doing this for a Philadelphia 76ers team that is going into the playoffs with the 4th seed in the East. Sitting right behind him, the runner-up in points this season out of qualified players was Giannis Antetokounmpo. The reigning NBA Finals MVP for the Milwaukee Bucks went on to average 29.9 points per game while shooting 55% from the field. Sitting right behind him was Luka Doncic, the elite starting shooting guard from Ljubljana in Slovenia. He will go on to average 28.5 points per game while shooting 45% from the field, 35% from three, averaging nearly a triple-double on the year. Sitting right behind Luka was the player that he would get traded for in the 2018 draft, Trae Young, as Trae Young would go on to average 28.4 points per game while averaging nearly a double-double in terms of assists, while leading the NBA in total points and total assists. Looking at the players that would finish 5th in total points per game this season out of qualified players, it was DeMar DeRozan, the all-star shooting guard for the Chicago Bulls. He would go on to average 27.9 points per game this season while helping the Bulls finish with the 6th best record in the East. Going into the playoffs, they are set to face off against the Boston Celtics. Looking really quickly at the players that were able to lead in field goals made, LeBron James actually led all players in field goals made this season, as he was the only player to average at least 11. Kevin Durant would finish second in field goals made per game, as he averaged 10.6. We had a two-way tie for third with Nikola Jokic and Giannis Antetokounmpo at 10.3, and DeMar DeRozan and John Morant would finish tied for 4th in field goals made, as they both averaged 10.2. There were 6 players in the NBA this year that averaged at least 10 made baskets a game, and of course those are the 6. Looking at the players that would finish at the top of field goal percentage, Rudy Gobert, the elite starting center for the Utah Jazz, would be the only player in the NBA to shoot at least 70% out of the players that qualified for this distinction. Second in the NBA was Jared Allen, the all-star center for the Cleveland Cavaliers out of Texas. He shot 67.7%. Third in the NBA was Montrezl Harrell, who started for the Washington Wizards and ended up on the Charlotte Hornets. He would shoot 64.5%. DeAndre Ayton, the starting center for the NBA leading Phoenix Suns, would finish the season shooting 63.4% from the field, and Ivica Zubac, the starting center for the Los Angeles Clippers, would finish his season shooting 62.7% from the foul line, for shooting from the field. Now taking a look at where people shot from three, the only player that would average at least 4 made threes per game was Stephen Curry, the goated starting point guard for the Golden State Warriors, as he averaged 4.5. Sitting behind him, Fred VanVleet, the all-star starting shooting guard for the Toronto Raptors, averaged the second most threes made per game, as he averaged 3.7. Tied for third was Donovan Mitchell, the elite starting shooting guard for the Utah Jazz, and Klay Thompson, the elite starting shooting guard for the Warriors, as Donovan Mitchell did it in more than twice as many games. They both averaged 3.5 made threes a game. And sitting behind them was Kyrie Irving, the elite starting point guard who played temporary games for the Brooklyn Nets, would average 3.4 made threes a game. And taking a look at the players that would lead in three-point percentage this year, the highest qualified three-point percentage is that of Luke Kennard, the starting shooting guard for the Los Angeles Clippers out of Duke, as he shot 45% from three this year. Second in the league was Desmond Bane from the Memphis Grizzlies, these holders of the second best record in the NBA. Desmond Bane shot 43.6% from three. Sitting behind him was Tyrese Maxey, the shooting guard who temporarily starts for the 76ers. He would go on to shoot 43% from three. Fourth in the NBA was Cameron Johnson from the Phoenix Suns, as he shot 42.7% from three. And right behind him was Lonzo Ball, a player that many critiqued for not having a jump shot. Lonzo Ball will go on to shoot 42.3% from three this season. Looking at the players that would lead in free throws made this season, Joel Embiid, the elite starting center from the Philadelphia 76ers and the NBA scoring leader this year, would lead the NBA in free throws made. He was the only player that averaged at least 9 or even 8.5 free throws made, as he averaged 9.6. Second in the league was Giannis, the reigning NBA Finals MVP. Giannis Antetokounmpo would average 8.3 free throws made. Sitting behind him in third with less than a free throw made than Giannis was James Harden, the elite shooting guard who now plays for the Philadelphia 76ers. James Harden averaged 7.2 free throws made this season. Fourth behind him was Jimmy Butler, the elite small forward for the Miami Heat. And right behind him was DeMar DeRozan, the all-star starting small forward for the Bulls. Jimmy Butler averaged 6.9 free throws made last year, and DeMar DeRozan averaged 6.8. Looking at the players that led in actual free throw percentage, Jordan Poole from the Golden State Warriors would finish with the highest free throw percentage in the NBA, as he shot 92.4%. Sitting right behind him is the Warriors' goated all-time point guard Stephen Curry, the all-time leader in three-pointers made. He would go on to shoot 92.3% from the foul line, as he was the highest free throw percenter of all shooters out of all players that averaged at least 25 points per game. Sitting third in the NBA was Kevin Durant, the go-to starting power forward for the Nets, shot 90.7% from the foul line, as he would miss 28 games, so he wouldn't qualify for scoring leaders. Fourth in the league was a three-way tie, as it was among Trae Young, the elite starting point guard for the Atlanta Hawks, Danilo Gallinari, the power forward off the bench for the Atlanta Hawks, and Desmond Bane, the starting shooting guard for the Memphis Grizzlies. They all shot 90.3%, as 6 players in the NBA that qualify for this distinction have shot at least 90% from the foul line. Moving on to the stats past scoring, the league leaders in rebounds was Rudy Gobert, the elite starting center from the Utah Jazz, who also led the league in field goal percentage, would be the only player in the NBA to average at least 14 rebounds, as he averaged 14.7. Second in the league was Nikola Jokic, the elite starting center from the Denver Nuggets, would finish in the top 10 in virtually a good amount of these categories, but I'll get around to it. He did all this while leading the Denver Nuggets to the playoffs, as their next matchup should be against the third seed Golden State Warriors. Third in the NBA was Domantas Sabonis, the starting power forward who now plays for the Sacramento Kings. He started the season with the Pacers. He finished the season averaging 19 points alongside his 12 rebounds, as his 46 double-doubles would see him tie with Giannis and Joel Embiid for the fourth most amount of double-doubles in basketball, just to get a sense of how many rebounds Sabonis has grabbed, and he's missed 20 games this season. Fourth in the league in rebounds per game was Clint Capella, the starting center for the Atlanta Hawks, as he averaged 11.8 of them alongside his 11 points. He was able to average a double-double for himself. And then fifth in the league in rebounds was Joel Embiid, the elite starting center for the Sixers, and also the scoring leader this season, as he averaged 11.7 rebounds, 3 less than Rudy Gobert, and also 3 more than the 20th most player in the NBA, Isaiah Stewart. This would come as he went on to average 30 points per game this season. Looking at the league leaders in assists per game, the all-time leader, at least for averages, was Chris Paul. The elite starting point guard for the NBA leading Phoenix Suns would average 10.8 assists alongside his 14.7 points. As he would go on to miss 17 games this season. He was still a very big part, and I would argue the instrumental reason that the Phoenix Suns finished as well as they did. And then, of course, second in the league in assists, the only other player to average a double-digit amount of assists was James Harden. The elite starting shooting guard for the Philadelphia 76ers, who started a season with the Nets, will go on to average 10.3 assists per game this season. He would go on to average the most assists out of any NBA player that would average at least 20 points this year. He would go on to lead the Sixers as the Sixers are going into the playoffs. Their next matchup will be against the 5 seed Toronto Raptors, as now he's sitting alongside Joel Embiid, the NBA's scoring leader. Sitting third in the NBA in assists per game was Trae Young. The elite starting point guard for the Atlanta Hawks would lead the NBA in total assists as he played 10 more games than Chris Paul and James Harden. He would see himself average 28.4 assists alongside his 9 rebounds, as he would be the highest scorer out of all the players that averaged at least 9 assists a game. And then sitting right behind Trae Young, Trae Young would also go on to finish with 41 double-doubles. He had a double-double in half the games he played, as he did not register a single triple-double. Sitting behind Steph Curry in fourth place is DeJounte Murray, the all-star point guard for the San Antonio Spurs. He averaged 9.3 assists alongside his 21.2 points, 8.4 rebounds, and 2 assists. He would finish with 39 double-doubles on the season and 13 triple-doubles, the second most triple-doubles in the NBA. Sitting behind DeJounte Murray was the elite starting point guard for the Dallas Mavericks out of Slovenia, Luka Doncic. He would finish with 8.7 assists per game alongside his 9.1 rebounds. He would also average 28.5 points per game. As out of all the players that would average at least 6 assists a game, Luka Doncic would be the leading scorer out of all of them. And then taking a look at the steals leaders this season really quickly. The leader in steals... I guess before I get to steals, I'll look at turnovers. The leader in turnovers this season was Luka Doncic, the elite starting shooting guard for the Dallas Mavericks. He would average 4.5 turnovers per game, but he was still able to get the Mavericks to the playoffs. Looking forward, they're getting ready to face off against the Utah Jazz. Second in the league in turnovers was James Harden. The elite starting shooting guard for the Sixers now was able to average 4.4 this year. Third in the league was Paul George. The elite starting shooting guard for the Clippers would average just over 4 turnovers per game, as he only played 30 games this season. And then sitting right behind him in fourth place would be Trae Young. The elite starting point guard for the Atlanta Hawks would average 4 turnovers a game, even though he averaged nearly a double-double. James Harden would average a double-double, and he would average 4.4 turnovers. Sitting behind Trae Young in fifth place in total turnovers is Nikola Jokic. Nikola Jokic would average 3.8 turnovers, the most turnovers of any big man by a wide margin. The next big man, I guess Kevin Durant, will go on to, I guess he averaged 0.4 less turnovers, but I guess in terms of centers, Joel Embiid would finish with 0.7 less turnovers than Nikola Jokic. And then looking at the defensive side of things, or I guess before, as we get into that, the league leader in steals was DeJounte Murray from the San Antonio Spurs. He was the only player out of qualified players that would average 2 steals per game. And this, of course, came in his first All-Star season, while he was virtually an All-Star from every single facet of the game, whether it be points, rebounds, assists, as he nearly averaged a double-double with assists as well. Second in the league in steals was Chris Paul, the elite starting point guard for the Phoenix Suns and the assists average leader, would average 1.9 of them this season. We'd see a two-way tie for third place as Gary Trent Jr., the starting shooting guard for the Toronto Raptors, and Matisse Thybulle, the starting shooting guard for the Philadelphia Phillies, both averaged 1.8 this season. And then tied for fifth at 1.7 steals, we see Tyrese Halliburton from the Sacramento Kings, Fred VanVleet, the all-star from the Toronto Raptors, the Boston Celtics starting guard Marcus Smart, and then Herbert Jones from the New Orleans Pelicans, who was the former SEC Player of the Year. Taking a look at the blocks leaders this year, the player that would end up with the blocks title would be Jaren Jackson Jr., the starting power forward from the Memphis Grizzlies, the second best team in the NBA. He will be one of three players to average at least 2 blocks per game, as he averaged 2.3 of them. Second in the league would be Robert Williams from the Boston Celtics, as he would average 2.2 blocks a game. Third in the league would be Rudy Gobert, the elite starting center from the Utah Jazz, as he would be the third player to average at least 2 blocks. And this would be yet another season for Rudy Gobert in which he does so. Fourth in the league in blocks was Mitchell Robinson, as he would finish with 1.8 of them from the New York Knicks, as he will not play another game this season, as his season's officially over. And then, of course, tied for fifth with 1.7 would be Jakob Poeltl, the center for the San Antonio Spurs, and Mo Bamba, the starting center for the Orlando Magic, as Mo Bamba's season is officially over as well. With that said, taking a look at the stats where you kind of like combine the other stats to see how they really kind of fared in the advanced or just like the combined aggregate statistics. In double-doubles, Nikola Jokic would be the leader in double-doubles. The reigning NBA MVP would finish with 66 of them in his 74 games. There would be 8 games in which he didn't record a double-double, and he recorded 14 more than the second most amount of double-doubles in the NBA, which was recorded by Rudy Gobert. Gobert would finish with 52 double-doubles in 65 games, as we would average 15.5 points, and he would average 15 rebounds. He would only miss a double-double in 13 games. Third in the NBA in double-doubles was Jonas Valanciunas, the starting center for the New Orleans Pelicans. He would finish with 50 double-doubles in 74 games, as there were 24 games in which he missed the double-double. He did this while averaging nearly 18 points and about 11.5 rebounds this season. And then there was a 4-way tie for 46 double-doubles this season. Giannis Antetokounmpo, the reigning NBA Finals MVP, would go on to average 29.9 points and 11.6 rebounds this season. Joel Embiid, the NBA's scoring leader this season, would go on to average 30.6 points and 11.7 rebounds this season. And then, of course, third out of them was Domantas Sabonis, the starting power forward for the Sacramento Kings, went on to average 18.9 points, 12.1 rebounds as well, and he also finished with 5 triple-doubles. And then, taking a look at the players who will go on to finish with the most triple-doubles, Nikola Jokic, the elite starting center for the Denver Nuggets and last year's MVP, would, of course, sit at the top of that leaderboard as well. He will go on to finish with 19 triple-doubles, as he went on to average 27 points, 14 rebounds, and nearly 8 assists. Second in the NBA in triple-doubles was DeJounte Murray, the all-star starting point guard for the San Antonio Spurs, as this year he would finish averaging 21 points, 8 rebounds, and 9 assists. Third in the league in triple-doubles was James Harden, the elite starting point guard for the Philadelphia 76ers. He finished the season averaging 22 points, 7.7 rebounds, and 10.3 assists, as he had 11 triple-doubles on the year. And tied for fourth, we had 2 players that had 10 triple-doubles on the year. Luka Doncic, the elite starting point guard for the Mavericks, would finish with 10 of them, as he would go on to average the 28.5 points. He would go on to average 9.1 rebounds and 8.7 assists. And then, of course, sitting alongside him is Russell Westbrook, the Lakers' goated starting point guard out of UCLA, would go on to finish with 10 triple-doubles, as he averaged 18.5 points, 7.4 rebounds, 7.1 assists, and just over a steal in the 34 minutes he played, as the Lakers would fail to make the playoffs, as he would only miss 4 games all year. But that would, of course, be what Russell Westbrook's season would really come down to. But those would be the 5 players that would register a double-digit amount of triple-doubles. Last but not least, looking at the players that sat on top of the player efficiency rating list. The top player in PER was Nikola Jokic at 33.01. Second was Giannis Antetokounmpo at 32.19. Third in the league was Joel Embiid, the NBA scoring leader at 31.48. Fourth in the league was the NBA's total leader in points and assists, Trae Young. And fifth in the league was Luka Doncic, the Dallas Mavericks elite starting shooting guard. That's virtually everything I have for you when it comes to the individual statistics, and that's everything that I've got for you as we navigate through this season one day at a time. Now that the regular season is officially over, my episodes regarding the 2021-22 season should be fixated within the playoffs itself. I want to thank everyone for following this entire season beginning to end. It's been a real labor kind of getting everything together, but getting on track I've been able to get everything back on track, so I really appreciate it. I do want to thank everyone for listening. I do hope all is well. And once everything is done today, I'm going to come back tomorrow on Tuesday, April 12th for another episode. And until then, I want to thank everyone for listening. I hope all is well. And I want to thank the ESPN and NBA sites for giving me all the facts and figures. I would not be able to do this episode without them. And hopefully by this time next year, we'll see how much this list changes, if not. But thanks for following along with me as we go through yet another basketball season. Thanks for listening. I hope all is well, and I'll catch you with more tomorrow. Peace out. Thanks for listening to my piece.